Hi everybody, it's Natasha.
And Sonja.
And we're back at the North Grove in the programming room, and we're here to walk you through building block number 3 of Handle with Care today. So building block number 3 is all about expressing emotions. So the key message for this week is showing young children how to identify and express emotions helps them gain a sense of control, share experiences, and build healthy relationships. So some things that we know are really important for teaching children about expressing emotions are learning to name feelings as an important step in expressing emotions. And not just really the common emotions or the happy emotions, so all emotions, so frustrated, anxious, and then of course happy, sad, mad. Understanding that when we acknowledge children's feelings, we're helping them to recognize those feelings. So you could say to your child, I see you're very sad that you lost your truck. And then having conversations about feelings are very crucial to children's emotional understanding and expression. So when we just mentioned, I see you're sad that you lost your truck, you could also say, it's really hard to lose your favorite toy. Let me give you a hug. So that's combining emotions and then a way for parents to acknowledge that emotion as well. This conversation lets your child know that it's okay to be sad or mad or whatever the emotion is, and that there are things that you can do to cope with these sad emotions. So when young children are hurt, angry, frustrated, and sometimes even happy, they will often react without thinking, and they often react, especially very young children, in some very physical ways, according to their age. And sometimes this can be really confusing to parents and confusing to children as well. So the parent's role is to empathize with their child and then show them a more positive way of handling that emotion. So a good example of that is a toddler who is maybe frustrated about something and hits a sibling, hits a friend, or even hits a parent. So sometimes we get hung up on how they responded to that emotion, and we need to just take a step back and look at them and look at the emotion that they're feeling and then show them a better way of handling that. So just like adults, children need their feelings to be understood and respected by people that they care about. So lots of us as adults can think of a time when we've been expressing an emotion to a friend or a partner or a coworker, and that emotion has either been dismissed or made light of, or even sometimes being told that that's not how you feel. I can think of a time, I said to my kids, you can't be hungry, you just ate. Or you must be tired, you haven't had a nap. So lots of times that we are hearing our children tell us things and tell us how they feel, and we will sometimes dismiss them. So really important as parents that we acknowledge those feelings.
I think too, that just when you said that, it just reminded me, sometimes we think what they're upset over is silly, right? It's a color plate, and you're thinking, it's a plate. It's you're being silly, but to them it's important. So it's important to acknowledge it, even if you don't have the color. It's still being respectful of those feelings, right?
Yeah, and I always think in programs, Sonja will always say, like, when did telling somebody to calm down really make them calm down?
Never.
So if you think of a little child or anybody in your life that's really upset and telling them to calm down, how is that really telling them what they need to do? It's way too broad, it's too abstract. Little children can't understand that. Us as adults, when somebody tells us to calm down, it doesn't magically make us calm down. So children are no different than us. It's okay for me to express my emotions as an adult. It seems more acceptable, but for some reason we tend to not accept the feelings that little children often are showing us, and oftentimes it's because the ways that they're expressing them are a little bit misunderstood.
And I think the feelings too, like happy and excited, are great feelings to sit with. It's really uncomfortable to be around people when they're angry and upset. It just doesn't feel good. So a lot of times I think people just avoid it, right? Yeah. How about if I cheer you up, or I'll distract you, and the feeling will go away. But unfortunately, those feelings keep coming up. So sometimes that might work, but other times, they're not learning how to, like you say, deal with the feelings, right?
And sometimes I think we dismiss those feelings too, and we'll jump in. So the little preschooler who's trying to zip up their jacket that's getting very frustrated that they're not able to do that, we take it as maybe they're stalling and not wanting to get out the door fast enough, or we're going to be late for an appointment. So we just kind of swoop in and zip the jacket up and really miss that opportunity to say, it can be really frustrating to learn to zipper your coat, can't it? Here, let me show you a trick, or let's do it together. And it's really a teachable moment in the moment, but sometimes as parents, we kind of flip through those teachable moments because it's not always convenient. Yeah. So learning to express emotions in healthy ways is a skill that takes time and practice, and lots of time. Young children need to test these new skills within a loving and patient environment, which sometimes is difficult because oftentimes, as is Murphy's Law, those teachable moments don't happen when we as parents have the time to be patient and be loving. We're often trying to get out the door to go somewhere, or it's bedtime, but focusing on the times that you can. So thinking about what are some times do you think throughout the day that parents, if we had to think back, that parents could practice some of these loving and patient moments?
We decided that, we were talking about this earlier, I brought in 3 books actually that I used to read to my children. A real typical one, this one was Today I Feel Silly. It's by Jamie Lee Curtis, and it just talks about all the different emotions and what happens. So that one really is very focused on emotions, but you don't have to have a book like that. Goldilocks and the Three Bears is an excellent book and an excellent example. So you could say, oh, they look pretty happy. Even the bear's happy, even this little teddy bear. And then as you read through the book, there's different things you see, right? The little girl's coming in, she's excited. So you could even ask your child, oh, what makes you excited? And then as you go through the book, there's different ones where mom's surprised, or maybe she's a little startled. So lots of opportunity to talk about it, and Llama Llama Red Pajama. So maybe you have some favorite books that you think, oh, you know what? That offers itself to a lot of opportunity to talk about emotions.
And sometimes as parents, I think we are learning about emotions along with our children. So you may have grown up in a home where a lot of emotions weren't validated and understood. So for you as a parent, this is learning for you too.
For sure. And I think about the movies that we watched this time of year. We just watched Elf, and it lends itself, and he is so expressive, right? So when he's excited, he's really excited, but then when he's sad, he's really sad. So, there's lots of times throughout the day, if you're watching a movie together or a show, that can be a great time to kind of talk about some of those things as well. So the big thing, and it always comes back on us as parents, is that we are the role models when it comes to learning and developing these skills. Like Natasha said, learning how to express and deal with emotions is definitely a learned skill, and it's up to us to do some of that. One thing we can do is through modeling. So if they see us responding by isolating ourselves, or we're going around, we're slamming doors and stomping around, then that may be how they learn to respond to emotions. However, if they see us, learning how to deal with it in more positive ways, then that can be how they learn. So I thought when I was doing this, I thought, oh gosh, there's lots of times when maybe I don't respond in the most positive way. But that's okay, because you can say, hey, you know what? Mom kind of had a little meltdown there. Probably I could have handled that a little better. What do you think I could have done? So you can ask them, if they're a little bit older, you can ask them for suggestions, or you can say, maybe next time I could just take a minute, take a break before I deal with that situation, right? Because one thing for sure is that we always feel that guilt as parents, that, oh, maybe I don't do so well in that. So it's a learning thing, and I think it's important to own that and say to your children, you know what, I'm still learning how to deal with these things as well.
And oftentimes, the older your children get, you can see them mirroring how you handle things.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm a silent when I'm mad person, and I can see that sometimes in my children. So it pushes me to work on myself because I see them kind of mirroring that. So as their most important role model in handling some of these things, it's really important for us to be able to look at ourselves without that judgment and say, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to practice this myself. I'm going to ask my kids to practice it. I'm going to practice it myself, that when I'm feeling This way, this is a more positive way to handle it.
Yeah, and if we as adults, right, and we know these things and we're learning these things, if we struggle, then when our teenager goes upstairs after a day and slams the door, you know what, cut them a little slack, right? I always say to people, yeah, it can be annoying and frustrating, but they're expressing something to you. So at some point, usually if it happens at my house, I will wait a little bit and then go up and check in to say, hey, you know, how's everything going? And kind of wait to see what the response is there, right? But to not, I guess, to expect them to be able to always handle their emotions in the most appropriate manner, because we're still learning, right?
And I think it goes back to the example I gave earlier about the truck, right? Mm-hmm. I can tell that you're angry because you just slammed the door, right? Or I can tell that you're sad because you're just sitting in the room by yourself. But this is the way that we should handle some of these things, right? So I understand you're angry, but slamming the bedroom door isn't the way to handle it. So, you know, and how can we handle it better next time? Or what are some things that we can do to talk about what's going on?
Yeah, sometimes I'll say, hey, why don't you come down and have a snack and a drink of water? Like, you know, why don't you just kind of take a minute to unwind after your day, right? To try and get in some of those healthier ways of dealing with things. Expressing emotion often develops with language. So toddlers and really young toddlers that really don't have many language skills and they're just learning have a hard time accurately expressing their emotions. They're very physical when they, so as they develop language, this also develops being able to express and talk about your emotions. So also thinking of that is being aware that sometimes if people have developmental delays or developmentally challenges around language, it is to kind of be aware that they may need a little bit more support when it comes to expressing language. So I just want to get that little piece in there. The last thing, if we were in our group, and we've done this in previous groups when we've met here in the program room, was to talk about something called ACT. So this is something that you can do with your child to teach them how to express emotions. So it's an acronym, so ACT stands for, so the first A is acknowledge. So you're going to acknowledge their feelings, their wishes, and their wants. Okay, so you are at the center and your child has to leave playgroup, however they want to stay. So acknowledge would be, hey, I know you want to stay, or I know you wish you could stay longer. So you're acknowledging, right? Or I know that you're sad that you had to leave playgroup. So now you're going to communicate the limit. Maybe your child hit you or kicked you, or you know, they're screaming. However, we can't kick mommy. Okay, so that's communicating a limit, and then you're going to tell them what's acceptable, because it's not enough just to say what they can't do. I'm feeling these big feelings. I'm really, really angry that I have to leave playgroup, and what do I do with that? So you can say, how about we stop on the way home and go for a slide? Or how about you stomp your feet instead of kicking? You're just going to give them something that's more acceptable than the harmful behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we go back to the truck example from the very beginning, so the acknowledge will be, I see that you're sad that you lost the truck, and say that they lost it to, you know, they had to share it in a playgroup. So I see you're sad that you had to give back the truck. We can't hit when we're angry, so next time use your words. Right? So really, that's I think a statement that we use a lot when we have children here at the center, is about using your words. And the reason is, like Sonja said, the more words you have, the more you're able to articulate how you're feeling. So if us as parents, if we're giving them all these feelings and emotions, they're developing all kinds of language, and then we're helping them with the skills, they're going to be better able as they grow up into older children and then adults to handle all kinds of difficult situations.
And when you said use your words, it reminded me back to my daycare days. We used to say use your words all the time. And use your words is good if they know what words to use.
Yeah.
Right? But when they're really little, sometimes, for example, with the truck, you may have to say, ask so-and-so if you can play with the truck when they're done. Or, you know, if they're fighting over sharing a truck. So it is to think about who your audience is as well when you're doing these things. So that's it for this week's session. Perhaps what we could leave you with is to look for opportunities throughout your day to have discussions around feelings. So acknowledge your child's feelings, name them, and think about times throughout the day, either be it a book or maybe you're playing a game, or you can talk about even something that happened in your day. And just kind of go through some of these things that we talked about today.
So I'm just going to read the summary for building block number 3. So by naming and understanding children's feelings, we're giving them the message that we care about how they feel. Learning to express emotions in healthy ways takes time and lots of adult support. When we talk about my feelings, it helps us both understand why I feel the way I do and what I can do about it. So take some time today to think about the feelings preschoolers experience: happy, sad, mad, scared, frustrated, and excited. Draw or cut out faces that show these feelings and think of ways to use pictures with children, such as pointing or naming the feeling that shows how we feel and then talking about why we might feel that way.